Hey guys. Welcome to Politics ASMR, and welcome back to Samuel Huntington's Clash of Civilizations. Today we are going to be looking at Chapter 3, which is titled A Universal Civilization, Modernization and Westernization. Huntington begins with a question that many in the 1990s thought was already answered. The question of universal civilization, the idea that humanity is coming together, that we are increasingly accepting common values, common beliefs, and common institutions. But Huntington wants to peel back the skin of this idea. He suggests that what we call a universal civilization can be broken down into three categories. The idea is that humanity is coming together. That is universal civilization, but it can be broken down into things that are profound but irrelevant, things that are relevant but not profound, and things that are simply superficial. First, consider the profound. All humans share basic values. We all agree that murder is evil. We also all agree that we have some sort of family. Well, we do. We have some sort of family. And most people have a thin, minimal morality. But Huntington whispers a cold truth. If these values have always existed, they cannot explain history. History is the story of change, not of constants. If humanity is the only civilization, then the word civilization loses all meaning. It just becomes a synonym for the human race. Then there's the second one. The relevant but not profound. This is the 18th century meaning of civilizations. Cities, literacy, and civilized quote-unquote behavior. This is indeed expanding, but as we learned in chapter 2, the spread of civilization in the singular is perfectly compatible with the existence of civilizations in the plural. You can have a city in Riyadh and a city in Tokyo, but that does not make them the same. Then Huntington starts to look at something more important. It's called what he looks at is called the Davos culture. Every year, 1,000 businessmen, bankers, officials, and intellectuals meet in Davos, or Davos. It's probably Davos. I can't. My pronunciation may be pretty bad. Davos, Switzerland. They all have university degrees. They are all fluent in English. They all travel internationally. They all believe in individualism, market economies, and political democracy. Because these people control the world's banks, governments, and militaries, the Davos culture is incredibly powerful. But Huntington asks us to look at the numbers. Outside the West, this culture is shared by perhaps 50 million people, 1% of the world's population. 1%. Maybe even less. For the other 99%, the Davos culture is a foreign film with no subtitles. It's a common intellectual culture at the elite level, but its roots are shallow. Hedley Bull reminds us that a common intellectual culture does not mean a common moral culture. The diplomats may speak the same language, but they do not dream the same dreams. He starts to look at the myth of the Magna Mac. We move to the first physical argument for a universal civilization, which is popular culture, so like film, music, social media, etc., etc. The images are everywhere. Blue jeans, Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola. Rap music, CNN, Hollywood movies. Some say that because the world is consuming Western goods, the world is becoming Western. However, Huntington calls this argument irrelevant and superficial. Think of it this way: innovations move from civilization to civilization all the time. But a fad is not a culture. In the 19th century, the West was obsessed with Chinese culture. That didn't make the West cynicized. In the 1970s, Americans bought millions of Japanese cars and cameras. They didn't become Japanese. In fact, they became more antagonistic towards Japan. Huntington gives us a haunting image. Somewhere in the Middle East, half a dozen men are dressed in jeans, drinking coke and listening to rap music. And between bows towards Mecca, they are building a bomb to blow up an American airliner. Oh no. Not good. That's not good. The fact that non-Westerners bite into a Big Mac does not mean they accept the Magna Carta. The essence of Western civilization is the Magna Carta, not the Magna Mac. When we identify our civilization with fizzy liquids and faded pants, we are trivializing our own heritage. What about the media? Hollywood and CNN control the global narrative, but entertainment, as Mikael Vlachos said, does not equate to cultural conversion. People interpret what they see through the lens of their own values. When a cruise missile strikes Baghdad, Westerners see a surgical strike for justice. Those outside the West see a powerful bully striking non-white Iraqis while ignoring white Serbians. Remember, this was set in the 90s, so that would be about the Gulf War, the first Gulf War. The same image triggers opposing perceptions. The global newsroom is not a campfire when we all gather. It is a Tower of Babel. It increases resentment as populist politicians use Western media dominance to rally their people against quote-unquote Western cultural imperialism. Then Huntington starts to talk about language. According to the Wall Street Journal, the world's language is English. But Huntington invites us to look at the data. Between 1958 and 1992, the proportion of the world speaking English actually dropped from 9.8% to 7.6%. The five major Western languages together dropped from 24% to 20%. English is becoming lingua franca, a language for wider communication. It is like a tool, a metric symbol, like a metric system or Arabic numerals. It is used for pilots, scientists and diplomats to talk to each other. But a lingua franca is a way of coping with differences, not eliminating them. When a Japanese banker talks to an Indonesian businessman in English, neither of them is being westernized. They are using a tool to remain themselves. In fact, as power diffuses, Babelization spreads. After the Cold War, suppressed languages came roaring back. In the former Soviet republics, Estonian, Latvian and Armenian were revived. In the Muslim republics, they shifted from the Cyrillic script of their Russian masters to the Western or Arabic scripts of their cultural kinsmen. In India, English remains an elite language that divides the people into two nations. As democracy spreads, the use of indigenous languages, Hindi, Arabic, So why then do we cling to the idea of a universal civilization? In the 19th century, so Huntington says, universalism is the ideology of the West for confrontations with non-Western cultures. In the 19th century, it was the quote-unquote white man's burden. Today, it's the universal civilization. It's a way to justify Western dominance. It is the single alternative fallacy. The belief that because communism collapsed, the only thing left is Western liberalism. But the world is not a choice between a Big Mac and a gulag. There are many alternatives: authoritarianism, corporatism, market communism, and most importantly, religious fundamentalism. To the West, global integration is benign. To the non-West, it is imperialism. When the West sees one world, the non-West sees a threat. Therefore, we must distinguish between modernization and westernization. Modernization involves industry, cities, literacy, education, and wealth. It is a revolutionary process that changed how humans control their environment. Because the West modernized first, we assume that the culture of modernity is Western culture, but Huntington argues that this is a totally false identification. The West was the West long before it was modern. It had distinctive characteristics in the 8th and 9th centuries. Modernization only began in the 17th centuries. He lists the Western core, the things that make the West the West. Listen to these pillars. The first one he lists is the classical legacy from Greek rationalism and Roman law. The second one he lists is from Western Christianity, first Catholicism and then Protestantism. This is the single most important characteristic. The third one he lists is European languages, a multiplicity of tongues grouped into Romance and Germanic languages, grouped into their own set of languages. The fourth one he notes, the separation of the church and the state, God and Caesar. This dualism exists in no other civilization. The fifth one he states is the rule of law. The idea that human power is subject to an external restraint. The sixth one he lists is social pluralism. A history of autonomous groups, guilds, monasteries, and aristocracies that limited the power of kings. The seventh one he lists in a lot of them here, is representative bodies, parliaments and estates that evolved into modern democracy. And finally, the eighth one he listed, is individualism, the Romeo and Juliet revolution, the right of individual choice. Individually, some of these exist elsewhere, but the combination of them is unique to the West, according to Huntington. That's why they are Western, but not modern. But how do other civilizations respond to the impact of the West? Huntington identifies three paths. He's identifying a lot. So number one is rejectionism. Totally isolating the society, both modernization and westernization. That is rejectionism. Japan tried this for centuries, as did China. But in a shrinking world, apologies. This is almost impossible. Only the most extreme fundamentalists tried to throw television sets into rivers and ban wristwatches. Rejectionism usually disappears with a few traces. The second path he puts is Kemalism. from society with an elite determined to be Western is a difficult, traumatic path. And the third one he listed was Reformism. This is the most popular path, the attempt to modernize without westernizing. In China, the slogan was Tiyong, Chinese learning for the fundamental principles, Western learning for the practical use. In Japan, it's Wakon Yosei, Japanese spirit, Western technique. The reformist believes that you can have the science, the technology, and the wealth of the West while keeping your own soul. And finally, Huntington presents his final model of how this works. It's a curve. Initially, Westernization and modernization are linked. A non-Western society absorbs Western elements to get started, but as the pace of modernization increases, the rate of Westernization declines. The indigenous culture goes through a revival. Why? Because modernization increases the wealth and power of the society. It gives the people confidence. They no longer feel the need to ape the West. At the societal level, they become assertive. At the individual level, modernization creates an identity